So you've never heard of Band-Maid? Maybe you have. Heck, maybe you've been a fan since their inception. Regardless, I promise you that in this one, you'll see a new perspective on this incredible band. If you haven't watched part 1 yet, watch it first because this picks up right where we left off. Band-Maid's goal was and still is to dominate the world with their music. Saiki is the final member to complete Band-Maid as the lead vocalist. The talent agency hired her for her powerful vocals that would complement Miku's bright voice. But there is just one problem. Well, a few. When Saiki was hired, she was in a period of her life where she would take on anything because she just wanted a job. Unlike most lead vocalists, she did not want to be the center of the audience's attention. She told Miku that she just wanted to sing and that Miku should handle everything else. You see, apart from Saiki being incredibly shy, she had no motivation. She was filled with doubt about her purpose within the band's purpose, and she constantly questioned its potential. Is this really gonna work? She also hated the maid outfit and threw her apron out after the first live show. Well, Misa hated it too. And while Saiki's goal was just to sing, she unknowingly had the key that would help Band-Maid's goal of dominating the world. But if she continued to take a backseat, Band-Maid risked fading into a sea of bands that never made it. Miku takes the reins. Being the one who started Band-Maid and the co-vocalist, she becomes the host, the MC, and the media spokesperson, given that all 4 other members are extremely shy. And while every member of Band-Maid transformed into energetic, engaging performers on stage, when the music stopped, Miku ran the show. Her concept of Band-Maid's deceiving, submissive maid outfits, contrasting with playing aggressive rock music, was great, yes. But succeeding in Japan, competing with numerous idol bands, was no easy feat. Fun fact, Band-Maid is not the first band to come up with girls playing instruments while wearing maid outfits. Would Band-Maid succeed in pushing this concept to the world? One of Band-Maid's main goals at the beginning was to write their own music, as so far the group had their music written for them by their talent agency. In fact, Band-Maid's music wasn't aggressive, it was more pop rock. And so they weren't able to create this large enough gap that Miku envisioned between the cute costumes and aggressive rock music. When they performed at an event with several other bands, and it was their turn, no one stayed to watch them. In fact, when they decided to play a show on their own, the staff asked them to invite 200 people. The girls panicked. They bought tickets by themselves and gave it to some of their friends and acquaintances to fill up the venues. At Battle of the Bands shows, people lined up at the merch booths of other bands, but none at Band-Maid's. But the girls were determined to make a breakthrough. The band members became even more motivated by the lack of an audience and played even harder. Miku then suggested that the girls shake hands with people who had bought their CDs and give out photos to help people know who Band-Maid was. They would build their fan base slowly, one at a time. But by now, Misa is already having second thoughts. Band-Maid's music, mostly pop rock, differed a lot from what Misa liked, and she did not want to become just another idol band. Misa also had several other projects going on at the time, and she was under a lot of mental and physical stress. She almost quit the band. The shows, however, started to gain some traction, and after watching the enthusiasm of the crowd at their next show, Misa decided to stay. Even Saiki was starting to enjoy herself at these performances, but she continued to hide in Miku's shadow. The band then decided that one of the vocalists should also play guitar. Saiki didn't fit the part, it looked awkward, and Saiki bluntly said, "I'm just here to sing." Now, Miku had the additional responsibility of learning how to play guitar, singing, and pretty much driving the band forward towards their big goals. Miku also designed the maid outfits, and when Saiki and Misa expressed their distaste for the outfits, Miku worked closely with the designer to create outfits that matched the girls' personalities and taste. But they were still not writing their own music, and hence had not found their voice yet. Kanami, who was also a singer-songwriter, kept trying to write songs for the band, but they kept getting rejected by the talent agency. Akane was placed as the leader of the group because she seemed the most dependable. The band was facing its most uncertain period. They didn't know what musical direction to take. Despite wanting to dominate the world with their music, they had no clue how to get there. In fact, their worst fear was about to come true. Their label was about to drop them. Band-Maid weren't exactly making waves, and they were about to be shot down after just 2 years. But something unexpected happened that catapulted the band into an arena that, as much as they wanted, were unprepared to handle. Band-Maid's track Thrill from their second album seemed to be doing quite well at their shows. This track, ironically, according to the band members, was the most representative of the style that each of them liked. It was more hard rock and aggressive than their other stuff, and they specifically chose this track to make a music video. It did fairly well, but then about 5 months later, the video got featured in a popular US-based Facebook group and quite literally broke the internet. It gained 1 million views so fast that the girls thought their accounts were hacked. This interest came from overseas, and it was a catalyst that would change Band-Maid forever. People questioned if it was really the girls playing instruments or just a gimmick band with no real skills. This excited Miku. She wanted to confuse people, and this song had done it. The girls then decided that this was going to be their musical direction. They had found their path. The offers to play overseas came flooding in, but were they ready to be an international band? Their songs were still being written by their agency. They were in danger of becoming a very different band than what they wanted if they didn't find a way to bring their own musical expression. By this point, Saiki has slowly opened up to her bandmates. Although shy, she's always been very blunt with her opinions. She'll tell the girls and even the label what she thinks is good or crap. And because of this, the girls are turning more and more to Saiki for feedback. While Konami was constantly dealing with rejections for her songwriting, it was Saiki who encouraged her to keep writing. Saiki believed that Konami had a gift and inspired her to never give up, to keep trying until the management accepted her songwriting. In fact, Misa as well started to send separate bassline demos to Saiki just to get praised by her. She says Saiki's praises had variations and were just different. Saiki became Misa's source of energy. She would take a shower, relax, enjoy her drink while reading Saiki's super fast feedback as a nice side dish. As Saiki's opinions started to show credibility, Konami became hopeful, and by the end of their third album, well, one song there, Konami's songwriting finally hit the mark, and her management finally allowed her to write songs for Band-Maid. Saiki became revered by Konami as she had continued to believe in Konami's songwriting through the constant rejections. Band-Maid had finally reached their goal of writing their own songs. But Konami's complex songwriting presented different issues. While they now had a blueprint of their musical preference, they didn't really have the skills to execute them. Miku, who had started with just holding the guitar as an ornament, she'd never played guitar before, was now forced to actually play professionally. She was also chosen by the band to write lyrics. So now, Miku is working on her guitar skills, writing lyrics, singing, marketing the band, and hosting the show as a front woman. In fact, she came up with a brilliant idea of having a break in between their performances, called Omajinai or Magic Time, in keeping with the theme of maid cafes that she used to work in. During her Magic Time, the band gets a much-needed break during their intense performances, while Miku entertains the crowd, so she never stops. That's a lot of pressure on one musician. Saiki at this point is screening Miku's lyrics after they're done, so she has the final say in what goes. But at this point, she was regularly shooting down some of Miku's lyrics, resulting in clashes between the two. The band is still getting things done by way of non-verbal mutual understanding. There was no collective active involvement from each of them. Miku isn't the only one struggling to keep up with Konami's complex songwriting. Akane, who was used to drumming at 130 beats per minute, now had to aggressively twin pedal at around 170 beats per minute. Misa also struggled to get the sound that Band-Maid now needed with a 4-string bass. And just when they finally started their first world tour, within a year of that video going viral, their lack of self-care as professional touring musicians started to rip them apart. They played over 100 gigs in 2016 alone, in 9 countries, 20 plus songs in their 2-hour intense concerts. And because they weren't really prepared for this, their initial success came to a grinding halt. Although Saiki was taking vocal lessons, she was dealing with a bad throat. She had vocal cord polyps for about 2 years. They're like calluses on your vocal cords and can make your voice hoarse. Saiki's voice was gradually declining because of this, and the extensive touring pushed her over the edge. You could hardly hear her speak. She could only sing at 60% of her capacity and had to take time off between recordings just to recover. Saiki couldn't continue to pretend like the issue didn't exist. It was time to face her nightmare. Should she continue singing with a bad throat until her voice gave out and she ended her career with Band-Maid? Or should she undergo surgery and save herself and the band? She was terrified of surgery and kept pushing herself to avoid it, risking her voice from permanent damage as well as the band's success. In 2017, Saiki made the tough decision to go for surgery. Although the surgery was quick, Saiki wasn't allowed to sing for 1 month. But now the real test began. She had to work extra hard to strengthen her body from inside out. Post-surgery, Saiki's voice cleared up. She could now easily sing songs that she struggled to sing in the past. She's always had a very distinctive voice that has also helped set Band-Maid apart from other Japanese bands. Saiki could not risk a relapse. She strength trained to build muscle in her body so it could support her voice. She trained her core muscles too and learned to use her whole body to sing, not just her throat.
おすすめの筋トレって言ってたの。筋トレする前にちゃんとストレッチをして、筋膜を緩める、剥がすっていうことを、こういうストレッチポール、これにね、こう持ってこうやってさ、ゴロゴロやるし、新しくランブルローラーっていうのもボール、これラクロスボールとかトリガーポイントのボールを使って大きいいろんなところを剥がすよ。どんどん良くなるから。
In fact, every member of Band-Maid started to care for their bodies more through strength training, stretching, and regular massages. In fact, Konami and Akane even have protein shakes. They finally realized that constantly whipping themselves to go forward without looking after themselves could severely reduce their output or worse, shorten their career. The girls also run and jump rope to keep their stamina up. Akane as well had to be really careful not to end up with a hernia because of the fast pedaling. On their 2022 tour, Konami was anemic and struggled with exhaustion following their intense performances. But in 2023, she was on fire. While the girls strengthened their bodies enough to support their intense touring, they still had a long way to go performance-wise. As their sound got heavier and heavier, it became mandatory for Miku to learn how to play the guitar even better. She practiced sometimes 8 hours a day, not going a day without touching the guitar. Even chords were hard, but she persevered. Konami became her role model, and Miku says that if it wasn't for Konami's guidance, she would have given up playing guitar. Another turning point for Miku was switching to the Zermitis guitars, which she believes that only real guitar players should use. She worked extra hard to own that guitar, and even got to a point where she could play solos. Miku's sound is now signature of Band-Maid sound. Akane had to overcome her demons too. Every time she received a song, she thought it was impossible to play that fast. But Akane did not want to say the words, "I can't do it," especially since Konami wrote them believing that Akane could do it. She didn't have a proper foundation in twin pedaling, and switching to this aggressive style was painfully difficult to start. She started to resolve the little issues that were hindering her progress, such as ankle flexibility. Akane practiced moving her ankles all the time. While having a bath, eating her meals, she constantly mimicked the movement of fast twin pedaling to develop muscle memory. She noticed that she was getting exhausted towards the end of intense shows, so she started going to the gym. Akane had to completely change her form. Even the little things, like how she stepped on the pedal and the angle of her wrists. She also strengthened her core and regularly visits an osteopath to get massages. She watched videos of drumming icons to learn how they played intense sets without losing steam. Fun fact, during a live stream with Herman Lee from Dragon Force, Herman said that the fastest tempo Dragon Force had played was 225 beats per minute. Konami then hinted in an interview later that Band-Maid would come to that, and that Akane with her hard work would have no problem getting to that. Misa started practicing on her new 5-string to move Band-Maid towards its new sound. Her techniques of seamlessly switching between slapping and picking without ever dropping her pick is very impressive. She mastered this without even realizing it, but it was constant practice that got her there. Band-Maid is finally at a point where their uniqueness and skill is being recognized on a global level. They're no longer shy musicians unsure of their path. The band members now collaborate more actively on decisions. Each band member now contributes equally. Saiki now rarely changes lyrics that Miku writes, as they have come to understand each other better. Each of the band members now even support Miku during their magic time.
My opening ceremony time has come.
They've stuck together for over 10 years to create one of the best Japanese rock bands in the world. But what can we owe to Band-Maid's success? Konami might have given up after the constant rejections and might have never come up with the genius songwriting that Band-Maid has. If not for Saiki's motivation, Misa might have stayed in her shell and never have created ridiculously good bass lines. If it weren't for Saiki's encouragement, Miku would have given up guitar and never produced Bandmaid's distinctive sound. If Kanami hadn't guided her, Akane might have underplayed her potential if Kanami hadn't believed her and pushed her limits. Finally, Miku, who was responsible for starting up the band and clearly doing the most within the group, could not have held the band together for over 10 years and pushed it to the sky despite her determination. Every member of Bandmaid, directly or indirectly, cracked open the potential of other band members, creating something beautiful and unique. In fact, they say themselves that they're like a sports team, constantly setting new impossible goals and pushing their own limits to achieve them. But although each band member underwent significant transformation and put in a lot of hard work to get to this stage, Saiki's transformation has been the most incredible and significant. Now playing a more vital role as the front woman, Saiki just wanted to sing, but what she needed was to break out of her own shell to uncover the massive potential that makes Bandmaid so unique. Here's another band of 3 young talented Mexican sisters who went from doing Metallica covers to collaborating with Metallica. Check out their inspiring story right here.
一番の目標がワールドドミネーション